It's Friday, the 22nd of August, 2026. The time, as always, is 10 past tomorrow, and I'm going to ad lib a little bit today. I had a completely different script lined up to record this morning, but during the course of this week, there's been some really interesting developments happen with some public statements from the New Zealand government regarding their plans to shed about 8,500 jobs over the next 3 years, and within their statements they attributed a lot of that to AI and digitisation. Now those comments concern me a lot, and as I'm about to explain, they concern me as much for the way that they were said and what's in behind the message as much as the message itself. And believe me, the message itself, 8,500 New Zealanders likely losing their jobs to AI and digitisation, that's cause for concern enough. So please let me explain. As I say, I'm ad-libbing a little bit here. So those comments came from the government on Tuesday. Yesterday, Thursday, I did a radio interview in the morning on RNZ with the awesome John Campbell, who picked up the story. And as a follow-up to that, I've been encouraged to write an open letter to Minister Nicola Willis, who made the comments on Tuesday. And so I have written that open letter. I'm hoping it'll get picked up in the media. And if not, then I'm going to speak that out loud now, in the hope that it reaches everyone who's listening, and then if people have the influence to pass it on into the right circles, then that would be appreciated as well. So as of today, my video essay is an open letter to the Honourable Nicola Willis, Minister of Finance. So dear Minister Willis, I'm writing this publicly because the conversation you started on Tuesday is just too important to leave to a press release. So when you announced that the core public service will shrink by about 8,500 roles by 2029, and citing AI and digitisation as the core enablers, you set a national conversation in motion. I'm sure you've seen that over the last 48 hours. But in almost the same breath, you also said that you personally don't use AI much, but that you're encouraging your office to experiment with it. So I want to address that pretty honestly, with the utmost of respect and also with a concrete offer. But first I want to acknowledge that there's empathy here. You and your cabinet colleagues are in the same position as almost every senior leadership team that we work with across New Zealand, in that this technology has arrived at pace. It's come out of the clouds while you've been busy doing the actual job of running a country. I acknowledge that you haven't had time to sit with AI, to learn it, and to develop a real tangible feel for what it can and can't do. And that's not a personal failing. That's just the reality of leadership in the public or the private sector in 2026. So I acknowledge that, but in the same breath, New Zealand needs more. Leading the most consequential technology shift on the personal and work lives of our generation and the next several generations, it can't be done by only being briefed on this technology. It has to be done from lived experience with it. And this is just as true for the founder of the smallest business in Whangarei as it is for our ministers of parliament. No leader, public or private, can make wise strategic decisions about AI without firstly being a competent user of it themselves. And I say this from direct experience, working with the executive leadership teams of public service organisations, some of our larger public service organisations, alongside private sector organisations, right down to SMEs and through up to large enterprises. So the pattern is consistent regardless of public or private, regardless of the size of the organisation. When the senior leaders are genuinely skilled with AI and understand its second order effects of being skilled with AI, the strategic choices that those leaders make are categorically better. They see options that briefed leaders simply can't see. And this is not just our observation, although it is our lived observation. Also, last week, Microsoft's 2026 Work Trend Index landed, and that was drawn from a survey of 20,000 workers globally. And so the conclusions found that Organizational factors such as skilled leadership and manager support for AI has twice the influence on the real impact that AI has at work than an individual's mindset and skill account for. So say that another way, the single biggest determinant of whether AI lands in an organization is the quality of its AI leadership. Not the tools or the budget, but the leaders. And I believe that we can extrapolate from the organization conclusions in that case to a nation. So how does this relate to your announcement from Tuesday? Well, when AI is viewed only as an efficiency mechanism, just as a faster way to do things the way that they've always been done, then yes, the logical conclusion from that trajectory is that AI replaces people. But that framing isn't how it has to be. If that comes to pass, it will be because it's a choice that we make as humans in how we use AI, and particularly the choice that we make as leaders. And that is the framing that has given us this week's headlines and the conversation that's coming out of that nationally. But there's another path, and it's the one that we see taken by leaders who themselves really know how to use AI. And they use AI to help their people strip out the manual, repetitive, mundane process work that ties up so much of their bandwidth. And this is particularly relevant in the public service, obviously. And then they redirect that freed up human capacity towards more work that can only be done by humans. The human-centric, relationship-centric, personality-centric work. And in this case, when we're talking about the public service, that's the work that our public service employees came into these organizations to do in the first place. And this is not naive. We see it happening live in real time in the public service organizations we work with. And yes, I'm realistic enough to see that some roles and some tasks won't survive the transition to AI. And pretending otherwise doesn't help anyone. But the leap from AI will change how we work to AI should mean 8,600 fewer public servants, that's a choice. It's not an inevitability. And it's a choice that's often the default when leaders haven't personally experienced what truly skilled AI use actually looks like and feels like. And this matters beyond the public service. On the OECD's own rankings, New Zealand sits 27th out of 36 OECD nations for productivity. And we have done now for many years. That's no surprise, that's no news to anyone. But I really believe that becoming a genuinely AI literate nation is the single most powerful lever that we have to fix that. And looked at it through that lens, AI is not a path to slashing jobs en masse. It's a path to becoming a more productive country with better public services and quite possibly as well, better work-life balance for our workers as well. And so there's a precedent here, it's developing. The US, the UK, Finland, Singapore, UAE, China, others, they're starting to invest truly significant budgets, not just into the AI tech, but also into nationwide programs to uplift their citizens' AI skills and literacy. There is no reason that we cannot do that too. But none of that will happen if our leaders setting the national direction haven't experienced the technology tangibly themselves. And so here's my offer, really publicly and really concretely. I know committing to learning AI sounds intimidating, but it truly needn't be. We run a 1-month AI training program for senior leadership teams. It's 5 hours per week, so that's 20 hours in total across a month. Hundreds of New Zealand organisations have been through it over the past 4 years, meaning thousands of individual leaders, and that includes the executive teams at the public service organisations that we work with. By the end of those 4 weeks, the leaders are really competent, confident users of AI, and consequently, they understand both the capabilities of the tools and the second order implications of using those tools powerfully. They are able to make better decisions about what the technology means for organizations and crucially for people and their jobs. So I would offer, I will run that program for you and your entire cabinet colleagues at no cost. I'll do whatever scheduling works for your diaries. That's 20 hours of your time across 1 month, and I guarantee you'll be in a fundamentally different position to lead this country through the AI transition that's already underway. And this is not a self-serving publicity stunt. I truly believe that this is 20 hours that will significantly benefit the nation's productivity and jobs for decades to come. But this is the moment now when this trajectory and our pathway is being decided. I'm on record saying at this year's New Zealand Economic Forum that I want to help, and so you and our government can powerfully help the nation. I'm not necessarily asking you to agree with my view on the public service headcount question. Not now anyway, but I'm asking you to make that decision and every other AI related decision in front of you from a position of genuine understanding and capability rather than just briefings. This is the moment. The narrative around AI in New Zealand is being set right now. You can feel that this week off the back of your announcement. Now, that can be a narrative of fear and job loss related to AI, or it can be a narrative of national renewal and productivity. The leaders at the top get to decide which path it becomes. I hope you'll take me up on this offer. I really do. With much respect, Mark Lawrence.